My next guest is a graduate of Tulane University and a licensed financial advisor and broker for Waddell & Reed here in Atlanta. Please welcome Christopher Buckley. Chris, thank you so much for being here. So I know that April is Financial Awareness Month. Can you tell me 3 of the top things we can do to work towards financial freedom?
The first thing I would say is the greatest predictor of financial success is the ability to delay gratification.
Share more.
So, in other words, do I really need this, what I'm spending money on today? And the marketing firms of the world get paid good money to separate you from your cash, right? We're going to take money from you and give it to these folks over there. So, learning that all the discretionary spending dollars that you have, do I really need to spend these dollars? Because the advertisements say you can't be happy without this.
Absolutely.
If you're not vacationing over here, are you really having a good time, right? And a lot of these things that we spend money on, you can delay that gratification down the road, because the only person who's going to pay for you in retirement is the you today.
Wow, that's powerful. So that's the first little nugget. Do you have any more? Delaying the instant gratification. And, you know, we're in like the microwave society where everything is just happening quickly. We want things quick and fast. Are there any other tips that you can share or gems you could drop?
Absolutely. So what I enjoy the study of most is behavioral economics.
Okay.
Because in behavioral economics, we're starting to study how do our habits, how do our behaviors affect things in the future. And so behavioral economics is not so much of, let's say, analyzing and crunching the numbers of a certain investment fund or this or that, but how does our human behavior affect this? So in the United States of America, we, in our education system, teach people how to earn money.
Okay,
but
yes.
we don't really teach people how to manage money or how to manage cash flow. And so this all revolves right around cash flow. So with clients that I work with, I often like to use cash flow techniques. So what have I learned in financial advising and working with people with cash flow? Typically what I see is in a family, all the money goes into a checking account. And that checking account, all the money goes to paying bills. But there's this, what I'll call a thermostat on that checking account. And below a certain number, whether you're conscious of that or not, you get a little knot in your stomach. And you say, oh my gosh, I don't have enough money. I got to work harder. I got to spend less, save more, right? But above a certain number, you know, that bottom number, that's the heat coming on.
Yep.
But above the certain number, the AC comes on, right?
Smooth sailing.
And above that number, when the AC comes on, oh great, I've got enough money, I can go and spend money on anything. I can buy this, I can buy that, I can take a vacation, I don't care what anything costs, right? Well, that's the difficulty when we get to that higher number, because there's 2 things you can do with your money. You can spend your money or you can save your money, right? And there's that propensity to consume that exists at every level. So typically we spend that money, but what happens if we save it? Well, it goes from that checking account now to maybe a savings account, right? That savings account also has a thermostat on it. Below a certain level, the heat comes on and that knot in your stomach, and I got to work harder and spend less, save more, right? Above that certain level, what happens? I can blow cash, right? I can spend money. And usually in the savings account, when that upper thermostat gets triggered, the spending level is higher than what it was in the checking account. So now you're spending money on bigger things. Oh, let's put a pool in the backyard.
Get a boat.
A boat, right? All those sorts of things. Now your spending level is higher. But what happens at above that level, right? You can either spend that money or save that money. Typically then, that money drips down into an investment account of some kind. And that investment account, once again, has got a thermostat. And below it, you get nervous and you sweat. Above it, the AC comes on. What can I do? I can either spend or I can save. And so at each one of these buckets, we got a checking up here, a savings down here, an investment account down here, and maybe there's another buckets, and it's this kind of trickling down effect, right? From one bucket to the next to the next. And with that propensity to consume at the checking account, the savings account, the investment account, the next and next down the line, it's hard to fill up this bucket, then the next one, then the next one, that's the next one. So it becomes very difficult to save with that propensity to consume.
So how do we change? Is it the mindset that we need to take a look at? Because you talked about behavioral economics, but is it, society perpetuates consumption.
Right.
Commercials everywhere, you know, buy this, it's on sale, it's, no credit, zero down, all these things. How can we adjust our mindset?
Okay, great question. I like to use multiple accounts, and I like to use a technique for cash flow, which helps create savings.
Okay.
So all money goes into a checking account or a savings account, doesn't matter. And it pays absolutely no bills whatsoever. And that checking or savings account pays a monthly salary to another account, which all the bills comes out of. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prevent from ever hitting the air conditioning, the AC coming on, that upper level, right? And so as I do that, all the money's coming in here, and I pay myself a salary into another account, which the bills pay out of. So now I'm budgeting my bills from this account, and as this account starts to accumulate cash, now it drips into other buckets. That may be an investment account, or I'm going to buy some rental real estate, or I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to XYZ, whatever it is. Maybe a 529 account for kids' college education, whatever it might be. But I try to make those two accounts at separate banks, right? That's one of the psychological tricks. Because if I have to walk into a different set of sticks and bricks, or I have to log on to a different account, or pull out a different checkbook or a different card out of my wallet, that gives me the psychological clue of, is what I'm spending this money on really that important?
Absolutely. So I think a really good talking point is having two separate accounts in two different banking institutions. Is that a great segue?
I think that's a great starting place. And making it one, I can spend the money in this account at this bank, but over in this bank, this is the do not touch bank. And actually, when I log into my account, you can often go in and retitle the name of the account. So this is Krish's treasure chest.
Right. I have the rainy day fund.
Yeah.
And my savings is the rainy day savings. It's separate from my primary checking account.
Yeah.
Totally different bank. Because I know I'm making a conscious effort. If I decide to go to said bank, that trigger goes off for me.
Yes.
That's the key.
Because I have the family checking account, which I know I can spend for all the things, but I have the treasure chest over here, and when I see the treasure chest, that's how I create wealth, is in my treasure chest.
Can you talk a little bit more about creating wealth? I know we have to change our mindset about money, but what are some tips or some basic fundamental things that we need to start practicing now to create wealth?
Okay. Well, one, it all starts with savings. And people have to realize that saving and investing are two different things.
Okay.
Now, you could say investing is a form of savings, but I really want to stress the point they are two different things. Savings is liquid cash. Savings is for checking to pay the bills. It is for savings for future emergencies or opportunities that happened. Things happen in life, right?
Things happen. Life happens.
Life happens.
Life happens.
And so savings is liquid cash to be on hand for those opportunities or emergencies that happen in life. Where investing, I am trying to grow for the future, right? So the investment dollars, you got to think also long term. So my savings is short term liquidity, but my investing is long term investments. And I'm trying to grow for the future. So while there are different risk tolerances and you can invest conservatively or aggressively, market volatility comes into play for any investment. And of course, your conservative investments, the volatility should be less, and the aggressive investments should be greater volatility. But you don't want the liquidity of emergencies and opportunities to be dictated by the volatility of the market. That's why savings is so important. And savings, adequate savings, actually allows the investments to do what they need to do, grow over time. Because if all your savings is in investments and something happens, life happens, then sometimes you have to rob the kitty when the kitty is down. And that's going to be bad and hurt your investments.
Well, you've really shared some really great fundamentals on the road to financial freedom for the month of April with financial awareness. And so we really appreciate having you in contact today.
Well, it was wonderful being here.
We really appreciate you taking the time to be with In Contact today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Stay close. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Let's Get Your Life Back Productions provides videography services, photography services, and much, much more. Please visit us on our website at www.letsgetyourlifeback.com or on all the social medias.